guest is here. Let's get her on here. The one and only Kristyn Burtt. And so you survived another earthquake? What's going on?
Another one. I mean, we haven't had one for a really long time. Like the last one I remember was 2014.
Wow, it's been that long? Okay.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, and we had in 2014 we had a series of quakes, all relatively on the smaller scale, but they were all sort of close together. Like one particular week, they were all somewhere in the fours. Today's was 5.3, which was bigger, but it was off the Channel Islands, so it wasn't. It was a minor shake for us on land, but the closer to the water you live, the more you're going to feel it.
Gotcha. Yeah, because when I saw your tweet, like I had to read it like 3-4 times. I'm like, wait a minute, to make sure I had it right.
Well, let's put it this way. If I'm on Twitter saying earthquake, I promise you it's not bad at all. If I'm not on Twitter and you don't hear from me and you hear that California had an earthquake, that's when you worry.
Right. Yeah, that was the thing. Like, it didn't even start trending. I'm like, oh, wow, so that it must not be that bad.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. If all of us are just sitting there like, earthquake, we're fine. I think that's funny that it's like, I'm glad that it's something so minor and that there was no damage and there was no injuries whatsoever. It makes me laugh, though, that everyone's first instinct is to confirm with each other on Twitter. And even when we had that series of earthquakes, one of them, I was actually living in the epicenter of one. And that one I felt. I mean, even though it was a smaller earthquake, because I was at the epicenter, you really felt it. And my first instinct, instead of running underneath the table, was to tweet. So there you have it.
You know, it's funny, I'm guessing it's probably like in conjunction of it because somebody had shared a video out, like it was in the last hour, of a company that makes these beds. I don't know if it was legit or not, but it's like these beds that literally swallow you up into like this like crate for protection if there's an earthquake.
Wow, that sounds really
like,
dramatic.
Yeah, like I mean, it was like it's like a big fold up and like encloses you in this like steel crate, and it's got like water and supplies under there to last you for so long to help you make sure you're safe.
Okay, to me, they are pitching that to the Y2K people that like went and had a bunker and like canned food when it was Y2K. That's what you're marketing that to.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, no, listen, I haven't been in a really big earthquake. I was not in the Northridge quake. I was not living out here at that time. Maybe my thoughts would be a little different because my friends that did live through that said it was very scary, and the aftershocks were just as scary. But remember, that was a really big one.
Yeah, I would probably, like something like that, I would be petrified to death.
Yeah, a lot of people left the state of California. In fact, real estate went to one of its like all-time lows, and people who were smart that were, thinking, oh, I'm still going to stay in California, bought homes for prices that we'll never see again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, some people, bought homes for like $100,000 that are probably now worth $4 million. They bought it in like 95 or something. Can you imagine?
No, not at all.
Yeah, your investment there is like, oh my gosh. But it really did scare a lot of people because people are always like, oh, you guys have earthquakes, and we don't. You know what I mean? We do, but we really don't. It's not like getting a blizzard. The East Coast has been, killed with like blizzards this year or bad snowstorms. We get them, decades go by before we get a major one. But when it hits, it's big. The big one. I'm not talking about like the little rumblers.
They're actually saying for this weekend here on Saturday here in the Philadelphia area, 8 inches of snow.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Oh yeah.
Oh, jeez. I have to say, like, anyone that doesn't believe in sort of like climate change or the seasons pushing or anything else like that, global warming, you have to look at what's going on. We've even seen it here in LA, and I get that, yes, we're not having snowstorms yet, but we have seen colder temperatures. We've seen hotter temperatures. We've seen our seasons push. Like our summer really does not start until August now. And our rainy season didn't start until end of February. which normally would start in December. So,
Wow.
I've lived out here long enough to understand what the weather patterns are, even though we don't have a traditional 4 seasons like when I lived on the East Coast. I can see that. I can see stuff happening.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's just there's definitely a problem somewhere.
Somewhere, absolutely. Somewhere, and I am not your science girl, never was, never will be, but I do understand basic science and what's happening, so something's going on.
Oh. So, what news stories do you have for us this week? I'm very curious. Your week.
Here's the one that I thought was interesting. The people were like, "I'll never believe in love again." They're so dramatic when celebrities break up. Jenna, Dewan, Tatum, and Channing Tatum, and I don't get too mental over celebrity breakups, only because it's a really tough town. It's tough to be married, especially when you're married to a big movie star who's off on location a lot. It just happens. What was interesting in this story to me, I've covered Jenna a lot the past year because of World of Dance. And I saw her in February. It was late February. I think it was like February 24th, somewhere around there. She was honored at the Los Angeles Ballet Gala. And she, along with Derek Huff and Adam Shankman, were honored for their contributions to dance. Now, normally this would just be a blip on the radar, and I was covering for Dance Network and blah, blah, blah. However, they each had someone personal to them present. And Derek had Mark Ballas. They've been best buddies forever. Derek lived with Mark Ballas' family. So that's one. That made sense. Then you have Adam Shankman. His best buddy is Nigel Lythgoe. So you're like, okay, great. That totally makes sense. So when you're married to someone who's also a dancer, which Channing Tatum is, you expect him to be there presenting to his wife. And instead, it was Brad Goreski, her stylist. And I was like, that's really weird, because Brad has nothing to do with the dance world at all. And he's a stylist, and he's not her husband. And, it's not my job on a red carpet like that when I'm covering dance to be all of a sudden turning into TMZ and asking about her relationship. Like, where's Channing tonight? Because I already knew that he wasn't presenting. But someone else did down the line, because I think Entertainment Tonight or something was there. And, she was like, he's at home with Everly, their daughter. And I'm like, it's a really weird thing. Like, if I was getting honored for something, I know my husband would be there.
Yeah.
I know he would.
Like they couldn't get a babysitter?
So, yeah, of course they can have a babysitter. They can afford, the $20 an hour or whatever they cost out here. So here's the thing. So I made, you make a mental note of it. And a good friend of mine works for Entertainment Tonight. And at the Oscars, she covered the Vanity Fair party. And we were just comparing notes on stuff that had happened over the past couple of weeks. And she said, Jenna was there. And she was with Emmanuel Chikri from Entourage, which is one of her best friends. And I was like, she wasn't there with Channing? And she's like, no. She said Channing was at home with Everly. And I'm like, wait a minute. That's the excuse she used the week before at the LA Ballet Gala. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, because, again, Oscar night is a big date night. And in addition to being a big date night, you get to get all dressed up with your significant other. It's just fun. It's a special night. If you work in Hollywood, it's also a very big business night. A lot of business deals go down on Oscar night. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, that's 2 weeks in a row he's home babysitting Everly. Come on. So that's when all of us started sounding the alarm bells. And, there have been significant rumors about Channing Tatum and his wandering eye for years. And I'm telling you, going back to 2013. So way back. I'm not there, obviously. No woman has stepped forward yet. We haven't seen any of that. But there was some smoke there for quite a while. Then I was like, something's going down. Sure enough, a couple weeks later, the story pops up. Yeah, it's weird sometimes when, I only have, a piece of the puzzle. Someone else has a piece of the puzzle. You put the pieces together and you start going, oh, this is starting to shape a picture. That happens a lot in this town. And that's when people, and I just want to kind of go back to, the Harvey Weinstein thing or, Kevin Spacey. A lot of us had pieces to the puzzle. We didn't have the whole picture. And so when people were like, well, you knew and everyone knew. No, people didn't know the full scope of it unless they knew someone that was a survivor or a victim of these people.
Right. I would love to be in like these little powwows, comparing notes.
Mm-hmm. They're really interesting, and everyone sort of develops their own. There are like little cliques of people, because and you know what? It's not necessarily. I don't want to say like a high school clique where you're like, these are like the nerds and the jocks, but it's just people who you gravitate to. Oftentimes it's people who have similar styles of coverage to you. I would prefer, for me, and this is just personal choice, I prefer not to hang out with someone that kind of like will do anything at any cost to any person to get a story. Just not my style. So I kind of hang around people that gather news in a similar style that I do. And we do go out and we do have cocktails. And if you pay attention to my Instagram story, you'll start seeing who those people are. And it is a sharing of information. A lot of stuff stays completely under the radar, stuff that'll never be reported, unless the story breaks and you're like, wow, you know, person A had this part of the story, person B had this part of the story, and here I am, person C, and I had this part of the story. We put them all together and you get the full picture. Amazing. That's what's amazing to me about this business.
How much you made the comment like about people covering stuff and kind of doing it the wrong way or the dirty way. You think it's more of that happening in the business, or more legitimate people like yourself?
If you had asked me maybe last year, I would say it's being done in the most honorable way possible. However, American Media Incorporated has bought Us Weekly. They also own the Star magazine, and they also own National Enquirer. And that has changed a lot of the face of coverage and what's true and what's not. Like, I would be honest, take everything you read in Us Weekly with a grain of salt now. To me, Us Weekly was always kind of like the little sister of like People magazine. Like People was the big one, you know. Yeah. And then Us Weekly would get the secondary stories, and they would get them right. Now I read stuff, and I'm like, because Us Weekly now has the ability to pay for all of these stories. Sometimes they're sort of true, sometimes they're not true. In the same way that National Enquirer operates, the same way Star sort of operates. In Touch, you know, some of these, you know, I would see C and D list magazines. So I always tell people, I'm like, be really careful with what's coming out of Us. It's not fact-checked the way it used to be, which is disappointing because it was a decent magazine. I mean, they laid off all of their staff. They kept on a few, but it's a much, much different magazine than it was a year ago.
Wow.
Yeah. And a lot of people don't know that, because if you're just saying like, oh, like American, you know, AMI owns Us Weekly, that means nothing to anyone, most people. But if you also follow the trail, the AMI owner is also really good friends with Donald Trump, and that skews a lot of the coverage as well.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
The only one I honestly truly believe anymore is TMZ. I'm like, I always say, like, unless they confirm the story, I don't believe it.
Yeah, TMZ, I would say, is probably about a B+ in accuracy. I would say People is probably a step up above that. People is probably about an A-.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So now I know who to truly follow.
Yeah, it's true though. And E-Online's usually pretty good as well. They usually vet their stories. They very rarely that haven't been verified and things like that. I can't even think of the last time I've seen that on E. So,
well,
and Entertainment Tonight's good too. Yeah.
Let me ask you this: speaking of like fake and real stories, but I think this story is just like a total publicity stunt thing. What happened today with the UFC with Conor McGregor, I think this was just a giant thing they cooked up to do. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it seems like a publicity stunt like gone wrong, because then once the story gets out, you're like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't, you know, that's the thing. I think all of us now have a pretty decent BS meter, and you starting to suss out when a story feels inauthentic, and this one kind of has like a storyline written to it, and you're like, why is there a storyline written to something that should be news?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah, because what's his name's doing Facebook Live with like 3 or 4 different reporters backstage at the Barclays Center to talk about that. I'm just like, really, just stop.
You're like, yeah, because to me, someone was tipped off or like a publicist brought in, you know, the media to be stationed at the correct location. Like, just everything was too convenient. When everything's too convenient and too neat, you're like, wait a minute. Because think about it. When something really big happens, and even if there is a reporter in the moment there for whatever reason, you still see the adrenaline and the chaos of the moment. Whether it's a big national event or, you know, whether it's even just like a local dramatic event, something that happened, there is more of, and I hate to be dramatic about it, but there's more of like an urgency or a breathiness to the coverage because the reporters are like, oh my God, this is happening and this is where we are in the story and we're still, you know, getting details. Everything here was just too neat.
It really was.
Yeah, when it's too neat, I'm like, nah.
Oh, that's so funny. So, now, there was I don't know if this was an old picture or I think it was new. It just came out the other day, and when I saw it, I was kind of blown away, and I wanted to get both yours, and I don't know if Nick saw it, but I wanted to get his reaction too, but a picture came out of Christina Aguilera with no makeup, and I wouldn't even have known that was the same person.
She looked amazing. It didn't look like her, but didn't she look pretty?
Yeah, oh, yeah. But she just looked like a total different human being.
She does, and I'm like, why does she cover herself in that much makeup? Because first of all of the freckles are so cute. Her skin is great. She just looks really natural. I'm like, I like her make under better than of the constant like face paint. Like it's war paint. Do you know what I mean?
It really
it's
is.
literally like so much lipstick, all the contour, and all the hair dye. Like even her hair was a lot more natural, and I was like, it's so pretty. And I mean, I think like to me, like she's someone that could do both. Do you know what I mean? Like go and do like a fun beachy like music video and look like that, and then hit the red carpet and you know do your makeup in your costume. But I was like, what is she hiding? That's what I thought.
Like, do you feel like? I mean, it's what she's. I mean, she's been out now for about 20 years in the music business. It's like, almost kind of like, yeah. Like, do you feel like she's been like hiding herself almost? Like she was hiding. Like nobody would have known she had freckles if she didn't put that picture out.
I loved her freckles. I thought they were amazing. I had that really up close photo, and it's just like her hair is kind of in her face, and I think like her hands are by her mouth or something suggestive like that. But I thought it was just such a great photo. I was like, oh God, I love that. And you know, I don't love the contoured look, and the contoured makeup look is, if you don't know what it is, just look at a Kardashian. That's exactly what it is. And I don't love it. If I work with a new makeup artist, I'm like, do not give me contoured makeup. I'm always like, I like my freckles to show through. So I never ever want heavy foundation because you know all it does is like it just sets into your face. It sets into any sort of wrinkle you have, and then you just look like you have extra lines. And I'm like, what is that? You might as well go go with a heavy eye and a heavy lip, and it'll look awesome. But like, don't do the heavy skin. It's crazy to me.
Nick, did you see it?
Yeah, at first I thought it was just a matter of, like, maybe that's so she could go out in public and be left alone, you know what I mean? Like,
I didn't even think of that way.
We would never know who she is without makeup.
Oh, not at all.
I'd walk on by. I wouldn't even think twice that, oh, that's Christina. Yeah. I mean, because if you're gonna look for Christina at the grocery store, which would be normal in LA, honestly, you're gonna be looking for war paint.
Oh boy! Speaking of Kardashians, there was a picture came out with a family picture, and they all look miserable except for West.
She was so cute with her little peace sign. Everyone else was just like, but I thought what I loved was I think Kim was like, Saint was not even interested in like looking at the camera, and I was like, you know what, that is every family. There's always that one kid that won't pose at all, and then there's always the other kid in the family that you can't they want 18,000 photos taken.
Right.
Yeah,
Funny
I
thing,
loved the camera. I was the kid that was like, me.
the funny thing is, I was actually thinking that too. Like, I was telling my wife, like, I saw the story on, I guess it was TMZ tonight. Like, I see a picture of Kim with Kanye earlier, and I was thinking, like, every picture, they never look happy together.
It's really unusual to see Kanye smiling. I will say that. I also think it's very rare to see the two of them together. I feel like I see Kim more with her sisters or her mom or the kids, but with Kanye, very rarely. I mean, think about it. When's the last time we saw them together on a red carpet? I can't even place it.
All right. Yeah, it's like it seems like they're just maybe together like once in a blue moon for a photo op, and then they go their separate ways.
I almost feel like she kind of lets him like go in his studio and be creative, and that's where he's best.
Stay away from her.
I'm sure he enjoys. Yeah, just I don't know. It's just this strange thing. You know, also he went through a lot of mental health issues over the last couple of years, so he still could be making his way back from all of that. I also think about that. So before you forget, he was 5150. I guess now it was a couple of years ago. He went to UCLA Medical Center. So
I forgot all about that.
Yeah, and I mean you forget about that, and then you go, well, it's a pretty big deal, and it's pretty hard to get 5150. I mean, you are actually being placed on a 72-hour involuntary hold, psychiatric hold. So, you're really at a place where, EMTs or police or whatever are like, you can't take care of yourself right now. You're a danger to yourself or maybe to others.
That's scary.
Yeah, that's
scary.
Not a good place to be. No.
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 Mm-hmm. Oh boy. How about the YouTube shooting the other day?
Yeah, that one, man. Like I feel like, it just ties into so many other things too, of like politics and where we are, and like how unhealthy social media and the internet has become for so many of us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And it's tough too, because you also look at these things, and the family knew that their daughter was disturbed and had given some warnings, but no one's taking these seriously. Like, cops didn't really take it seriously. And I have a feeling probably some of it's like, well, she's a woman, it'll be fine. Women don't usually go in shooting up people, Well, now that we've had that, do they? At what point, at what level, when we hear of a student or a woman or someone outside the profile of a young white man, do we take the threat seriously? Because we're obviously not taking the young white males seriously either. So, I just think that this discussion is tied up in so many different angles.
Yeah.
Mental health, some, weird profiling, of course, that, makes people really uncomfortable, because sometimes it's completely wrong and completely baseless. And other times I'm like, why aren't we looking at why are young white men feeling disillusioned, disoriented? Why are they so angry? I don't have that answer. You jump into the gun debate with this too. So, and then of course, when you jump into the gun debate, you jump into politics and, liberals and Democrats and conservatives and Republicans, and, it just starts swirling. It's really incredible.
It was scary. Like when I first saw it as it was, unfolding, and of course, you're seeing the aerial thing from the news things on social media. I said to myself in a joking way, I wonder if a person like lost it because they lost like monetizations, like the option of all that, because YouTube took all that stuff away from so many people. I'm thinking to myself, I wonder if the person just went nuts because of that. Here, that's what it was.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, even if they weren't, the top YouTube personalities and pulling in, the $2-3 million, some of them were pulling in some decent money. Even
Sure.
if it was just rent money, even if it was just, extra pocket money, utility money, whatever it is you want to say, to take that away from someone is a big deal. And, you know, it was kind of done without discussion, which I think obviously is not fair, and very little warning from what I understand from everyone. And, you know, it makes people think like, well, where can I go to create and where can I get paid? And I know some people are heading to Patreon, but Patreon has changed their system and how people get paid and the fee structure. So it's tough as an artist. It's always tough as an artist. But, you know, where people had made like a decent income off of YouTube in the past few years, someone just made it a little bit more difficult. And she was obviously upset. Didn't have the coping skills, obviously, to deal with all of that anger. So that's we go back to sort of the mental health of this. Like, why can't we get people help? Why are we so afraid to talk about it? I mean, if she is over 18, of course, we understand that an adult's an adult and they're going to make their decisions and make their choices. But, you know, the family did warn some people and no one really listened.
You know, as you were saying that, it kind of reminded me of like the car business, because it's kind of similar, like with these, you know, with these YouTube or Patreon, where, excuse me, you know, they set up these pay structures, probably thinking that people aren't going to make so much money off of it, and then they're seeing all the money they're paying out, and then they like figure a way to restructure things to put more money back in their own pocket. And this is something that happens in the car business all the time, where I see so many sales guys that are like killing it and selling so many cars a month, and then the GM comes in one day and says, "Oh, we're going to change the pay structure and it's going to be better for you." But in reality, it's nowhere near better for them. And it's, you know, it's all these companies just do this to people. It's crazy.
Yeah, I also feel that was the Republican tax bill that they passed. Like, for a lot of people, it's not going to be better, you know. But it does put a lot more money into corporations' pockets, and, you know, the promise of bonuses or, you know, pay raises. We'll see what happens in the long run. Or is it that the corporations are pocketing, you know, the money themselves and not passing it on to their employees? We'll see. You know, 3-4 months. I'm interested to see what happens in the next 2-3 years with this. Yep. Only time will tell.
So what else do you have on your agenda?
Well, Dancing with the Stars leaks have started to come out. Of course, the show doesn't start until April 30th. This is an all-athletes edition. And the official reveal is on Good Morning America on Friday, April 13th. So we're over a week away, but of course everyone has loose lips and everyone spoils the whole cast before the actual reveal happens. So they've named 4 athletes so far that are going to be on the show. There's going to be 10 for the season, so we've got 60% left to go. But the first one is Jenny Finch, the Olympian softball player, which I think is a great one. She's beautiful. She's an incredible athlete, has done multiple Olympics. Second one is Jamie Anderson. She was a snowboarder most recently in Pyeongchang. Okay. The next one I think will be expected. It's Adam Rippon, the figure skater.
Oh, okay.
And he's going to be great. He's going to be one to watch. And then the next one, and a lot of people are very unhappy that this person was cast, but it's not a surprise given the movie that came out about her, Tonya Harding.
Not a surprise.
Exactly.
Not a surprise.
Not a surprise. Not great though, and I'll tell you why. First of all, okay, on the basic like human level, they cast Nancy Kerrigan a year ago, and I'm sure that the casting directors are like, of course, this is great TV. People are going to be talking about this, blah blah blah. But usually, people come back to see Dancing with the Stars all the time, and they visit with their old pro, and it's like a little family. This is kind of a slap in the face from your family. That's one. 2. Remember when Tonya went to the Golden Globes, all the blowback that the actors received for bringing her to the show and for sort of making her look like a heroine. They stopped bringing her to award shows after that because they realized it was going to hurt their Oscar chances. This is no different. Bottom line, Tonya never has accepted any responsibility for any part she had in the Nancy Kerrigan event, in the clubbing of the knee. Now, of course, we know that Tonya did not do the actual action itself, but she was aware of it. And also, it was a murder plot first. It was a murder plot. Everyone needs to remember that. And then they were going to cut her tendon. That was the other possibility. They went with the clubbing of the knee, which, oh, gosh, I guess that sounds so more humane. But at the same time, think about what they were all planning. It's horrible.
Right.
So, again, Nancy's never gotten an official apology, and we're okay putting her on national TV for 4 weeks.
I don't think they'll make it past the first week.
I don't think so either. I don't think so, unless the show forces the votes. You know how they love to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I kind of think it's different than like inviting Ryan Lochte. Do you know what I mean? We had Ryan Lochte on the show after Rio. He was just an idiot and he lied. He just made himself look horrible. He did make. I understand he was also representing the U.S., but like nobody was physically hurt. And I do think that he was super sorry. I think he represented himself well on Dancing with the Stars. He stayed out of trouble. He's married. He's a dad. Like I think Ryan just learned a really hard lesson and took that lesson and ran with it. However, Tonya Harding has had since 1994. When are we going to learn the lesson? Let me know.
Oh, wow.
I know.
You know what?
I know.
Even, I don't think she would even last a week, not even because of her reputation, but I mean, she has not held up well.
No, she's not. I mean, she's
like a linebacker.
Yeah. She was a boxer, so I'm sure some of that comes from her boxing days. She always had an athletic build. She didn't have a slight build like a lot of the figure skaters. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Remember, this is only a 4-week show, so she could go really, really quickly and we'll never see her again. Or is ABC going to manipulate the vote and overproduce the show and we get stuck with her for 4 weeks? I hope that doesn't happen.
Now, who would be responsible for the ones actually putting her on there? Would it be Dancing with the Stars? Do you think ABC itself had a hand in it?
Well, there is an co-executive producer on the show. Her name is Dina Katz. She is in charge of talent relations. So she casts the people on the show. I'm sure she has to get some sort of approval from ABC. I'm sure this has to go through ABC lawyers to make sure that they can make this happen, that the person is insurable, because insurance on a TV show is everything. So she's obviously insurable. That happened. But, Dina usually likes to go with newsmakers. And I guess she's feeling, with the whole I, Tonya movie, she's a newsmaker. And I think that they sometimes would rather just have water cooler talk, good or bad, just to have talk because we're in season 26.
Sure.
I feel like sometimes we lose a little bit of integrity from time to time with some of the casting. But, and this is one of those times. Because I also feel like I take a look at these other Adam Rippon, who was the first openly gay athlete at the Olympics. Proud of it, willing to talk about it. I think really gave a different perspective of what it means to be a gay athlete at the games. That's important. I think also Jenny Finch is awesome. She's represented the United States extremely well in the Summer Olympics. Same with Jamie Anderson. You get some top-notch people, and then you kind of get the bottom of the barrel, and I'm like, And yes, Tonya Harding is a 2-time Olympian. However, did she hold up the Olympic ideal? No, she didn't.
I want to see one of the Eagles Super Bowl champions on the show.
Wouldn't that be awesome? As of right now, it's an all-Olympian edition, but that doesn't mean we won't see
it's all
non-Olympians. Well,
okay.
As of right now, we only have 4 out of 10. But right now, It's an all-Olympian edition. I have heard them throwing around that it might be an all-Olympian edition. However, there's usually a footballer in the mix. So
yeah,
I wouldn't be surprised if we see someone.
Interesting. Very, very interesting.
Lots of drama. You know it's coming.
Well, speaking of drama, last week, our guest last week, we had, I don't know if you remember, a couple weeks ago, we talked about American Idol, and I was saying I knew somebody who had tried out, and his audition was airing, and it aired last week, and it wasn't a good audition. Like, I felt bad for him. Like, after I watched it, I really felt bad for him. Like, because he's a young kid, too. He's like 20, 21 years old, maybe 21, and he's like, the 80s rock style, and they made him look stupid. Like, they kind of like really insulted him, and it was like really. I mean, I was very embarrassed for him watching it, and so he came on and told us about the whole thing, and it was not a very good experience for him overall. Like, they gave him a runaround big time for weeks in song choices, and they kept making him change song choices and kept telling him he's not approved for this one. They didn't hear back from the artist to approve it, and they told him as his audition was over and he was walking out, they said, "Oh, we have the approval for the song that you wanted to do now."
Okay, I can give a little insight on music clearance. Music clearance is extremely difficult. And I will tell you that on the dance shows, when it comes to music clearance, oftentimes the dance is already choreographed and the music rights get yanked. And that does happen. And then so if you have a really terrible competitor or contestant, trying to teach them like the same dance with a new song can be really challenging. But it happens even with like trained dancers on So You Think You Can Dance. I've had a lot of choreographers say, we were rehearsing and then literally I get a phone call at midnight and they're like, I know your rehearsal's at 7 a.m. tomorrow, but it's now this song. That does happen a ton. However, there are a ton of songs that are very easily cleared, and you can easily give those to the contestants and say, we're at the 25th hour here. Here's a list of 25 songs. Do you know one? Is there one that's comfortable for your voice? Can you do it?
Well, that's what they did do.
There's a way to do it.
They did do that.
I just hate it when shows, especially when it's young talent, unproven in the industry, still trying to figure their way out. I think for a lot of them, they get a bad taste and then they don't pursue it. Other people, they're like, you made me so mad, I'm going to go out there and prove to you that I can do it. But what are you doing to the ones that don't have that fight in them? That's what kills me.
They're crushing them. They really are. I even said I mean, were you just intimidated, to be, because he's not really known. I mean, this kid, he's majorly talented. He's an amazing guitarist, pianist. He's not really known for his singing. So I was kind of, that was one of the reasons that really shocked me that he was trying out for it. But, I said to him, I'm like, dude, were you just how intimidated were you? I mean, you're up there in front of, not even that I think Katy Perry or who was it, Luke Bryan are these amazing singers, but Lionel Richie's an icon. Come on. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's what he's like, from the time he walked in, because with the long hair, and he actually was, he was wearing this leather jacket. It was weird because I recognized the jacket, and it was his father's. His father got it from somewhere. But remember in the late 80s, the Moscow metal concert where Ozzy and Skid Row and Motley Crue and all them went over to Russia and played this groundbreaking concert, and each member of each band got this jacket. It was half American flag, half Russian flag, and he had this jacket and he's wearing it, and they were praising his jacket.
Cool.
Yeah, they were praising his jacket, but not him. They kept telling him you're stuck in the 80s. You need to get out of the 80s and find your own way, and the 80s is dead, and move on, and yeah.
Oh. So, I do think that there's a place for 80s and 90s nostalgia and a look and a sound, because everything comes back, and we're always looking for the next thing. Maybe he's not the best singer, but is he a great songwriter in that style? That's why I feel like you can't discourage people so much.
Yeah. I mean, when they were talking to him afterwards, he literally looked like a deer in the headlights.
Oh, God, that's the worst.
Yeah,
I
I'll
hope
have
that
to.
he knows that it's like, yeah, that it's literally there. Here's the thing: the producers on the show, most of them, have nothing to do with music. Do you know what I mean? They know how to produce television, so their job is to put on a good TV show, and so they need the drama. And some people are sacrificial lambs in these packages. It's the same thing with dance. Like, some people have nothing to do with dance. Like, for me on my side, I'm like, let's encourage these people, because it's great to have music in your life, even if you don't, make it to the top.
Right.
It's great to have dance in your life. It's great to have the arts in your life, whatever it is. So I do hate that some of these shows really just crush some of the dreams, or make them have nothing to do with the music industry whatsoever. Like, I don't even want to listen to that. I don't want to watch the show again.
Right. Yeah, I'll
That's where I get frustrated.
I'll have to find the audition thing on YouTube and send it over to you. I mean, you'll cringe when you see it.
Oh no, that breaks my heart.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like, too, I'm not the person that's like, everyone gets a soccer trophy whether you win or lose. However, you can send people away with beneficial, constructive criticism, saying, not this year. If you want to come back and audition next year, here's what you need to work on vocally.
Yeah. Yep. I mean, I said, nothing for nothing. All right, yeah, they kind of downed you, and however you want to look at it. I said, but the positive is, no matter how negative it was, you had 3 minutes and 24 seconds on ABC. So there's a positive there somewhere.
And you're with Lionel Richie, yeah.
There you go.
And any other thing, you just don't know what's going to happen. I've been watching a lot of reruns of Shark Tank lately, just because I've been doing a lot of writing, and I need some mind-numbing television, because it's very consistent. There's not a lot of crazy levels to the show. It's not like watching Housewives and people start screaming at each other. So what's interesting to me is that, if you don't get picked by any of the sharks, it doesn't mean that your product is horrible, because sometimes you've got a really great idea. And I always think about this, and I watch the episode, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I order from them all the time. E-Creamery, it's a delivery ice cream service. And the sharks were all like, we don't really know what to do with this. This is what you guys need to do. You have a successful product, but we can't fund this. The ladies went off. They've been more successful than ever. I will tell you, it's one of my favorite thank you gifts to give people, because you get 4 pints in the mail, and people don't expect it, and it's so cool, because who doesn't like ice cream?
Wow. See, and now, are you the type of person, whenever I see that show, and I watch it constantly on CNBC, I'm watching the reruns almost every night. Do you sit and Google these companies and see whatever happened to them?
I do. And there's that blog that does a lot of the updates.
Yeah.
And sometimes people just go completely out of business, or because the sharks have to do due diligence after the TV show to make sure that all of the financials that were released on the TV show are exactly what they say they are. And sometimes, the deal just doesn't go through after the show's over. And then you look at the super successes, I always think of Barbara and the Lobster Guys' cousins, because we have not only the lobster truck out here, but we also have a storefront with them. And their food is so delicious. It's amazing. Lobster rolls, lobster tater tots, lobster tacos. It's incredible.
That's
all Nick. So good.
It's funny because the QVC studios are 15 minutes from me, and in the town it's in, Westchester, PA, my buddy, my good friend Anthony, he's a tattoo artist at a tattoo shop there, and one day he was sitting there, and he looked up, and Mr. Wonderful was walking down the street. Yeah, he said he ran out. He's like, dude, I love Shark Tank. He's like, I ran out and I got a picture on me. He's like, he was a complete asshole. He's like, he was a complete bitch. He's like, but I don't care.
That's the worst. With him. I did interview Barbara last year, Barbara Corcoran, because she was on Dance with the Stars, and she's great. So I'm glad. I'd like to know that at least some of them are nice. But Mr. Wonderful, we know he's not nice. I think I thought maybe he'd be a little bit of a character, but he really just isn't nice. Oh, and I know Robert Herjavec, of course, because he's married to Kim Johnson Herjavec.
Right.
And they're having twins. They're having
Really?
a boy and a girl. Yeah. So
Wow.
lots of big changes for them. Yeah, they're, I have to say, first of all, besides the two of them being like the kindest couple and really good looking and rich and nice and everything, like every great adjective and smart, they're one of those people that you're like, they were destined to be together. You just see the bond. They're magical together. It really is. It's nice to see them. Every time I see them, like at an event or a red carpet, I'm like, oh, they're here. They're going to be great parents. I mean, he obviously has older kids from his first marriage, but yeah, I'm just excited for their next chapter as well.
So, all right. So, actually, we will not be here next week. We're going to be taking a week off next week.
Okay.
But where will you be?
Where will I be next week? Good question. Yeah, it's just a lot of coverage as Dancing with the Stars is ramping up. So You Think You Can Dance is already doing auditions and things like that. So it's just a lot of dance coverage right now. Nothing crazy event-wise, which is good because it starts ramping up again in late April. I'll kick it off with like the daytime Emmys, and I kind of get that second push. This is kind of like the calm before the storm. I'm not ready for it, but it's coming.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. You can feel it. Like you can feel the storm is getting ready to explode very soon.
Yeah, a lot of. There's always like a lull. Like after the Oscars happen, then there's Paley Fest, and then there's usually like a 4 to 6 week lull. We're in the lull right now, and it's kind of nice. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, rest up and sleep now because I know what's coming on the other side of it.
Get ready.
Get ready. I know I have to brace myself, but all good stuff. No complaints, and every day's different. That's the good thing about my job.
Absolutely. And hopefully no more earthquakes for a long time.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, I'm hoping that was just like a one-off instead of one with aftershocks, because that's never fun.
Okay, so good luck with that especially and everything else. And we will be hopefully talking in 2 weeks.
Sounds good. I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, Kristyn, take care. Everybody, there she goes, Kristyn Burtt. Check her out all over the world of social media. It's KRISTYN BURTT. That's KRISTYN BURTT. Dude, do you know about that place? That lobster place we was talking about? Lobster tater tots.
Yeah, there's a couple places out here that are like that.
Really? Wow.